Hey, hey everybody, welcome to another video about everyday life. Kind of think where I'm going to start, but I think I'm going to start continuation of what we were talking about. The last video is the way people that drives, crazy, and they don't give you any signal or they don't do anything in that way. And in the video, I did mention a wreck with quicksand. I'll tell you about that one tonight. Anyway, when I was young, I worked for the Forestry Service for about a year. And I was driving to work one morning, and I had two of my other crew members with us. And there was a forestry truck in front of me, and there was a slow-moving car in front of that. Well, we found a straight stretch that we were going to go around. And when I pulled out, the forestry truck pulled out, and I went on into the ditch to keep from hitting him. And anyway, when we hit the ditch, it hit the mud, what I thought was mud, and it went and hit the embankment on the other side. The mud slowed us down, so none of us really got hurt bad. We were banged up. Like, my knee hit the CB radio I had on my dash at that time, knocked it clean off, messed up my knee. But anyway, they got my passengers on the other side. They decided, well, they're gonna climb out over the hood, and I opened the door and I'm like, oh, it's just mud, I'm okay. And it probably ain't very deep, because it didn't seem like it was very deep. Anyway, I hauled off and jumped into it to get out of there. Turns out it was quicksand. Took 6 people to drag me out of that quicksand. That was the worst feeling, because the more they pulled upward, the more the sand pulled downward. And I didn't think I was ever going to get out of that quicksand. Now, that was some quick praying there. And I was a bad sinner. I smoked and I drank and everything else at that time. But, the good Lord was with me and got me out of that quicksand. Of course, my husband wasn't too happy I wrecked the car. He didn't speak to me for a while, yeah. But that was the way it was, He cared more about his car than he did me. He didn't care about me. He cared about his car. But that was the way it was. But anyway, yeah, you learn that lesson. Just because you run off in some mud and you think, oh, it's just mud, don't do it. Don't jump off in the mud and think, oh, I can get out of this. No. It took 6 people to get me out that mud. Don't do it. And my son brought out the fact, when I posted the other video, that I used to drive like a maniac. Well, that was true. When I was younger, I did. I drove a big Sherman tank of a Chrysler Newport that was 4 doors. Had a 400 horsepower engine in it. And I knew how much that little bad boy would go. Called that car Nellie. Had the car named. And yeah, I drove it like a bat out of you-know-where. Yeah, because I had no fear then. I have seen the time that, my uncle, bless his heart, I was coming home one afternoon and was coming through Jordan Hill, and I wasn't paying no attention. I had the AC/DC cranked to the max, and I was jamming, and man, I was driving fast. And then I ramped a hill, and all 4 tires of a Chrysler Newport, that's a Sherman tank boat, came up off the ground. And my uncle was over there on the side of the road. He had pulled off on the side of the road. I guess he was going fishing. Anyway, he saw my car coming, and he jumped off into the back of the pickup and just looked at me like I was crazy as he saw my Chrysler go flying by. Literally flying. I didn't tear it up, though. But, yeah, it gave it a pretty good beating. And he was good. He didn't tell on me. But a few days later, he looked at me. I went over to his house, and he said, I saw you the other day. He said, you best not be driving like that no more. You best not let me catch you driving like that no more. Because he said, if I catch you driving like that again, I'm going to tell your mama. I'm like, ooh, I know I'm in trouble now. Don't tell mama. Don't tell mama. And anyway, but I did. I drove really bad. And back in those days, now, you didn't challenge me to a race. You didn't. No. I didn't like to lose. This one guy worked for the Forestry Service. He said his Chevrolet, which was a land boat too, I don't remember what kind it was, but it was a land boat too, about as big as my Chrysler. And he said, you want to race? I bet I can beat you back to Winfield. I said, I bet you can't. I passed that poor boy standing still and left him in the dust. And he didn't say anything else about his Chevrolet beating my Chrysler. But that was just neither here nor there. But that's to give you an idea that I was a little on the crazy side. You know, I drove like a bat. But, you know, I did try to use my signal lights, and I did try to respect other people, you know. And I did not cross yellow lines. I passed when I was supposed to. You know, I was good. I didn't do that. But, you know, some people, they don't have no respect nowadays. They may drive like a maniac, but they have no respect. Something you need, if you're going to drive that way, you're going to have some respect. Some respect for the road, some respect for other drivers. You know, just give respect where respect is due. And I know, like I said, I drove crazy. But, it was just the time we lived in, you know, and the things we did. And at that time, Dukes of Hazzard was real popular. Hence the jumping of the hills and doing about 90 miles an hour around curves that said like 30 or 40. You don't do that. Not a good thing to do. Let me tell you, it's not. Been there, done that. Don't take that curve doing 90 miles an hour and it says 45. Don't. It is a very hard thing to do. And don't have your passenger leaning out the window going, yee-haw! You know, that's distracting. It's funny. It's funny as all get out, but it's distracting. That's distracted driving, people. You don't do it. But, I mean, what can I say? I mean, I can't really give advice on driving the way I used to drive. But I try. I'm older now. As I got older, I got wiser. And I realized there was a reason why you didn't drive like that. And so, that's the way it is. But, you know, I've seen friends of mine, you know, buried because they drove weird, or they drove drunk, or they drove on drugs, you know, and that's sad, I'm telling you. The saddest thing you'll ever have to do is to watch your cousin, your best friend, being picked up off the road in a body bag. And all they were doing was going to the store for a pack of cigarettes. And you see them, you know. That's the hardest thing, one of the hardest things you're ever going to have to do. I had to do that. You know, that was sad. And then I couldn't tell the children what had happened. You know, I had to wait till somebody that had more authority than I did, you know, come back and say, look, you know, this is what happened. And I spent that whole afternoon caring for children, and, you know, went on with the barbecue that we were having. I spent that whole afternoon with one of the kids, you know, well, both of them would come by and say, hey, Teresa, oh, when my mama coming home? Hey, Teresa, when my mama coming home? You know, and you're like, you can't say nothing. You just have to say, baby, I don't know. You just got to wait till your daddy come home. He'll tell you, you know. Or and then you have the littlest one saying, I want my mama. Where's my mama? When's my mama coming home? Is my mommy coming home? Is my mommy okay? You know, and it broke my heart, you know. And I thought about all the times that I drove home, you know, like that. And it wasn't good, you know. It's a sobering fact that you got a child or two children asking where their mama's at, and you know where their mama's at, but you can't tell them. You just have to say, you know, you'll find out, baby. It's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right. You know, mommy's okay. Daddy will tell you when he gets home. That's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And I hope and pray nobody ever has to go through that. Because that's hard. That's one reason I don't drink anymore. One reason I don't party anymore. You bury your best friend. You watch that casket. And they close that lid. No. It ain't good. And everybody crying. I mean, you know, everybody cries, you know, and it's just so sad because they're so young. And that's the way it is, you know. And it's awful. And a lot of people would say, you know, well, you don't need to tell that story, but yeah, it needs to be told. People do need to realize that what they do has consequences. You may not really think about it when you're doing it, but what you do does have consequences. You know, a lot of the stuff I did was all fun and games, you know. It was funny, it was just fun. It was adventurous, but when that come down, that was not fun and games. That was not funny. And you know, I still miss them today, you know. But you know, you can't go back and you can't change things, and you can't say, "Oh, don't go to the store, don't do that, don't go get that pack of cigarettes." You know, stay here, you know, and you can't take all that back, you know. And that's just life. But anyway, I told you that story, you know, so that way you kind of get a gist of, you know, sometimes fun and games turns into not so fun and games, you know. So, y'all have a blessed night. The Lord loves y'all. And pray for me, and I'll pray for you, and we'll all see y'all tomorrow, hopefully. Good night.